Hey Frank, how you doing? How's it going? Hey JT, hey LI, how you doing? How you doing tonight? Hey Red Raider, hey Lori. I'm gonna get a coffee here. Be right back. Hey Kim, how you doing? Thanks. Hi, Days. Hi, honey. Going? Hey, Craig. Forgot my damn. I gotta switch rooms. I couldn't do a chat last night because the cell phone signal on that side is not too hot. Hey, Eli. Hey, Dina. How you doing? Yeah, somebody that lives here actually, Dearborn, dropped me off a gift card for that Bangkok '96, a Dunkin' Donuts gift card, and an antler bone for Daisy, and a box of biscuits. It's very nice of her. I appreciate it. Thank you. I forgot my charger at home, so I last night took like 20 minutes for it to come on. So now I spent about an hour on the phone with the Detroit police last night, and the bottom line on the whole thing is that cop stopping me had nothing to do with that crazies calling and making up this bullshit. But I ended up talking to another cop, and he encouraged me to file a report on them filing a false police report once I explained to him what the deal was. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, last night was pretty good. I got really lucky when I first got down here, but I still have a bunch of stuff to give away. You know, I mentioned having excess cash, which is true, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be because people took a lot more stuff than I thought they would. So I'm going to have to buy some more. I got about, I don't know, $250, $300 left, something like that. And I will post later the accounting, all that. I have it all with me. So I tried to kind of miss Miranda yesterday. I have some things for her, and Lacey, and I still haven't given Cricket a ravioli. But it was a good day yesterday in a short period of time, so it's nice. The pressure's off on giving this stuff out. You know, it's impossible for me to keep up with emails now because, as I've said, I get an email for like my own emails, which really aren't that many, but I get an email on every comment on a video, which you guys wouldn't see, plus a question on a video, and there's just no way in hell I could keep up with them all. I wouldn't have a life. So I was able to catch one where a guy wanted to send some clothing for somebody, and I didn't answer it. Well, I know when people don't answer an email I send, how I feel about it. So I apologize, but I mean, I just can't keep up with them. You'd think, I sent this guy an email and I wanted to do a donation. He never even emailed me back. I don't blame him for being mad. Hey, Tweety. Hey, Superwoman. How you doing? Marguerite got her a bunch of stuff. See, here's another problem. I'm going to get Marguerite some firewood, but I still have too much stuff in my van to have a place to put the wood. So I'm going to hopefully get rid of it all today, and then I'll have a place to go get her some wood. But I got a guy that's going to donate some wood to her. And I'll go pick it up. It's cold out. Today will be worse because the sun's not out. Man, I'll tell you, last night, even it was sunny out. When I was originally dropping food off, I froze my damn ass off. And I was dressed for it. Yeah, actually, I had a bunch of tarps that I used for like different building projects that I'm going to bring down next time. I just didn't have room this time. I got some really big ones. I know they'll be able to use them down here. Hey, Janelle. And good jobs on the moderators keeping track of some of these losers out there starting trouble. It's amazing how many people they ferreted out that belong to these hate channels about me and make comments, and then they come over acting like I'm just such a great guy in a chat. So good job at ferreting them out. 2 of them were kooks that happened to be dispatchers at a police department out in New Jersey. I don't know how you can, I don't know any jobs where you can just dink around on the internet all day when you're supposed to be working. Maybe they're hoping someday they'll get off the desk as a dispatcher and be able to get out on the road like a legit police officer. I don't know, it just seems a little weird to me. Becky had a bad day yesterday. I mean, after those cops were there, she was walking over to talk to a cop, and I didn't hear from her afterwards. So I'm wondering if they locked her up. Yeah, Suzanne, you're exactly right. How'd you know about that? You grew up around here then? That's a Kwame Kilpatrick bridge that was set up for the Super Bowl. Yeah, thanks, CB. CB, I appreciate it. I was a little confused on the card there. Is that where you meant you live? Is that where you meant you live? Yeah, it's cold and damp out. So I hope you guys have a good day today. It's actually a great time down here so far. Enjoy coming down. Oh, that's what I thought. So thanks again. I appreciate that. That was nice of you. They had it waiting for me when I checked in. Have you eaten at that Bangkok 96 yourself? There was a note on there about like on Michigan Avenue and you had scratched out Telegraph. How long have you lived in Dearborn? Because I lived in Dearborn a long time ago. Oh, okay. Yeah, Drummond Island's nice. I used to fly people up there in the summertime, right after Monahan bought it. Tom Monahan bought it. Yeah, I used to like the old Lashish, but none of these places are as good as what that place used to be. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. CB, how many years have you lived in Dearborn? Oh, way to go, Lynn. I don't blame you. Oh, okay. Let's see, when would this would have been around 89? I went to war with the city of Dearborn over owning a pit bull. The sweetest dog in the world, but Dearborn, you know, back then it was still the old Orville Hubbard overreacting days, and they really started, you know, making a big deal out of it. So I just took them on in court. I ended up suing them, the dog catcher, a couple neighbors, and they had to write apology letters and dropped all the harassment. I wouldn't own a dog that was aggressive. There were no incidents. It was a puppy, a sweetheart, you know, but they were going to make me get rid of it just by virtue of the kind of dog it was. Well, now you know that the Supreme Court in Michigan ruled you can't be banned specific breeds, so too bad it took 30 years. Going pretty good, Tom. How you doing? Yeah, Becky is just having a bad day. She got her feelings hurt. No, I thought they would have learned a lesson from that, but I guess not. Oh, thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a 5-year deal. Yeah, I'm trying to do some interviews, yeah. Yeah, Dearborn by and large is a pretty good place to live. I liked it when I lived there. I mean, they have a nice school system, a good police department. The properties are maintained. I mean, Dearborn's hung in there pretty good considering. In my opinion, I always thought that Dearborn could have been much more hospitable to Ford Motor Company, because back as these companies got, global, these cities looked at them as their golden egg and just taxed the hell out of them, and they didn't treat them like they were a huge asset to the community like they kind of do now. So, I mean, maybe that's all better now. I mean, Ford's moving their headquarters, or part of their headquarters, downtown Detroit, so that can't be good for Dearborn. Yeah, you know, there is a chance that Becky could have got locked up. I hope not. Yeah, the Middle Eastern food's great. I was friends with him, Talil Shaheen, the guy that started Lashish. And then, you know, that's a whole nother story of itself, but I can tell you that Talil was a hell of a good guy. I watched him for a long time. I used to take him and his kids flying for airplane rides. And he was a super good guy. And, then the restaurants closed and other people got them and they reopened, but it was never the same. It was never the same. I was wondering about this last night. Right? Actually, Wyoming is what splits Dearborn and Detroit. And the reason that I was wondering about it is because, there's a bar up here that got caught in a big theft. And I noticed the Dearborn police were involved in it, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because I thought, well, maybe that little strip is Dearborn, but it's not, it's Detroit. So, but when I looked at the signs and I looked at the boundary last night, as soon as I cross this intersection, that's Detroit. But once in a while I see a Dearborn cop driving over there. So I don't know what the deal is. I was supposed to go look at that office today, and I don't feel like it. Yeah, the early Lashish was good. He started his first location over there at Wyoming and Michigan, and then it kind of took off from there. He's a really smart guy. Talil had a full ride scholarship to medical school in Russia, and he ended up getting a graduate degree in engineering, and a super good guy. I've thought of saying hello to him on Facebook, but I don't want to be audited every year for the rest of my life because, as you know, he's not on good terms. Yeah, well, I did want to rent an office, but the more I thought about it, man, I just don't feel like looking at it today. That intersection I just passed, that's where it would be. And it's still a little out of, like, where I'd like to have a place, Now, tonight would have been a perfect example of the perils of working the streets as a woman. I mean, it was cold. I mean, can you imagine this? Just think of this. You're going out, you got a drug problem, which tends to not make you feel good unless you're high at the time. And you walk these streets, freezing your ass off. It's not just between cars going into a mall or going shopping. You're freezing your ass off all night long. And you make your money and you do your drugs and then you go sleep in an abandoned building. It's just like, who could not think this is not want to do something about it or try to help in a little way? This sounds sexist and terrible as hell, but even if it was guys, guys are tougher and, guys, you never know what they're going to do. Boys will be boys. But when I just see the feminine part of attractive women, see that guy's walking backwards, it's so cold walking into the wind. When I see attractive young women that are of the age where vanity should still be important to them, with makeup and perfume and clothes and hair, and they just get down to the point where they can't even keep themselves clean, and they're walking these streets just getting into cars with one pervert after another. Maybe not perverts, I should say. It just makes me feel so sad about it. How can this be in my own backyard? I guess it's not the working women so much as life has broken them down to the extent to where they're knocking on death's door and they're not as scared of it as they would be if life would be better. If they OD, they OD. If they don't, they don't. And it just sucks. I mean, it's one thing, just having the mental anguish of doing that. It's another thing of suffering the physical pain of freezing your ass off. And at the end of a long day, they're not going home to a warm bed and a good meal. They're going to an abandoned building where they could have more problems. That's the part that gets me. He's at. Where Jamie's at. Come on, you idiot. Come on. So those are the things that get me. You know, I should be feeling really good about yesterday, and I don't feel that great today because I'm thinking of these things. You know, in a weird way, at least my experience, people like Marguerite's doing way better than these women. Marguerite's found a place she feels comfortable with, and you know, gets set up good with firewood, and you know, knows the people at the store that are nice to her. Is better than this Michigan Avenue thing. And as you guys know, I did a video of the women, you know, when I gave them their gifts. I didn't do it on live because you never know what the quality of it's going to be. Yeah, Marguerite, boy, I'll tell you, Marguerite didn't really look that good, and you know, with this cold weather and that COPD, if you know anything about COPD and you understand bronchitis and lung scarring and losing lung capacity and pneumonia, and I'll tell you, Marguerite's one bad cold away from lights out. I mean, it's no shit. I have verified this. She lives outside. Can you believe that? She lives outside, under a tarp. Yeah, well, you know what I mean about your mother. My sister has it. You know, and essentially you basically just suffocate to death. There are different stages of it, and you know, another thing I think of too, and that is that, you know, you're at every age, you got health insurance. You're always worried you're not going to have health insurance, and you're checking your cholesterol and your blood pressure and your vitamin D deficiency if you have one, heart meds. Here are these people out here. You think Marguerite gives a shit what her cholesterol is? Or if her blood pressure's high? She has to force herself to take her water pills. I mean, you got these people out here, all the things that concern you in a typical daily, it doesn't even dawn on them. They're not worried about cavities and fevers and atrial fibrillation. It's just nuts. They're wondering if they're going to be alive tomorrow night. Now, the one thing, a weird, twisted way, is an advantage for people like Marguerite, and that is that she's on Medicaid. You know, when you're a middle-class person, you're always worried about your $5,000 deductible, and if this is going to be covered, you're going to need a referral, blah, blah, blah. You can actually use the emergency room as your primary care physician. Marguerite is probably dual eligible, which means she doesn't have to pay a deductible, even the most advanced medicines there are. So when she's not feeling good, she can call an ambulance. She doesn't give a shit about a bill or a copay or deductible. In a weird, messed up way, when you're sick and you're worried and you're scared, Marguerite's taken care of. All she has to do is show up. But the middle class person, struggling, they're the ones that got the problem. They're trying to do the right thing in life, and they have insurance and they can't afford to use it. I mean, this sounds like I'm talking in a science fiction movie, for God's sakes. You know? Doesn't even sound like it should be real. Hey, Julie. Julie, I still think you're a fake account. I haven't had time to go through it again, but I'm going to. Yeah, you got to quit the smoking, man. Let me tell you, the alveoli, which is the soft lung tissue, uh, look up where they've done autopsies and look up lung disease. That if you've ever seen a cadaver or an open lung, you realize it's almost it reminds me of crepe paper. You know how that thin crepe paper? And imagine that and just dipping it into like oil. That's what it does to your lungs. You know, COPD, it's just like it's doing everything. It's creating inflammation. It reduces the ability of the lungs to be effective. You can't expel CO2 worth shit. I mean, I tell you, I think if you gave me a week to come up with a course on COPD and I could teach it, I'll go around to these schools and I guarantee you I'll convince these people to quit. I'll bring some examples with me. It's just like bringing some young people down here to Michigan Avenue. Yeah, you give me you let me get together for a week, and I would love to have these problem people. You know, that these kids that are smoking and blah blah blah. And it's not like I'm some health nut or the moral majority of it. It's the same with alcohol consumption with a developing brain. There are good studies out there, valid studies, that they affect the developing brain. Alcohol consumption. You know, there's still kids that, you know, get plowed in high school that end up being doctors and lawyers, but the point is, some survive it better than others. No, that's right, NH. You're exactly right. That's true. Yeah, I agree with you. I'll tell you another thing too. It's like if you know, everybody's dieting. You want to lose. NH, you'll probably know about this, but if you look at dieting and you know, the diet, and you're watching out for this and watching that. It's the bigger issue is the glycemic index, sugar and insulin ratios. That's really kind of the key to the whole thing, which differentiates natural sugar from real sugar. But I encourage everybody to look up into that, because let me tell you, type 2 diabetes is no fun, and type 1 is like really bad. You know, the old adage in medical school is when you get diagnosed with when you have diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, you know, you can be born with it, but you can get diagnosed later. They say add 37 years to that, and that's when it's going to be lights out. And if you look at the world's insulin production, people are getting heavier and taking less care of themselves. They're already struggling with trying to find enough insulin to supply the people that need it. But look that up sometime. It's really interesting, because if things keep going the way they are, it's going to get to the point where there isn't going to be enough insulin for diabetics, which just doesn't even seem possible. Yeah, I mean, it's just, and you know, look, I eat meat and I like hamburgers and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, if you look at the AMA and you look at some really good studies about red meat, meat has a lot of protein, that's true, but the fat is just crazy, and the link to red meat and colon cancer and stuff like that is valid. It's proven. I too try to eat more chicken and fish and stuff like that, but really realize how many calories are in meat, just in a hamburger, and the fat content, and just think of your cardiovascular system when you eat it. I mean, it's hard not to, you know, you're young, you think you're going to live forever. You know, you're eating hamburgers and you see McDonald's on the TV, and you can't believe that all these places could be pushing this meat if it was really that bad. Well, you know what? Red meat should be eaten in moderation. And honestly, another one's alcohol. I mean, if you ever look at a drinker, they will come up with more reasons why drinking's okay. It relieves stress, takes the edge off, relaxes them. I've read a lot about this. Actually, I haven't had a drink in a month, trying to practice what I preach. But overall, it's bad for you. If you took all the data and crushed it into a computer, overall, alcohol is bad for you. Yeah, you're right. It's true. Hey, Avril, how you doing? Yeah, I know two guys that died of colon cancer up where I live in the last 3 years. You know, they'd both be out doing things today if they'd got a colonoscopy. I talk to people, I say, if you had a colonoscopy, I'm not getting that. No, they can puncture the colon. I read about it. Well, statistically, the chances of you getting a punctured colon on a colonoscopy is 1%. It's 1%, it's nothing. And it can happen, but they're waiting for it to happen. So if it does, I mean, it would be terrible if it did, but they'll operate on you right then and there. But the 999 other people out of every 1,000, there's plenty of those that are glad they got it. Hey, Marie. Brianna, you're just, we're going to allow you to be involved in the chat and stuff, but you're barely hanging in there by the skin of your teeth. People send me copies of comments you posted in websites and other channels that you joined just because you were mad. It's one thing being mad at me. It's another thing joining and commenting on a channel that hates my guts, that's making up lies, that's trying to get me arrested as a serial rapist in Detroit. So if I ever see anything like that again, I find out you make any comments like that anywhere, I don't know how old you are, I'm going to chalk it off to your age. You'll be gone for good. Yeah, you said you didn't mean it, but I saw what you wrote, and there's one person that pushed those computer keys, and that's you. Hey, it is what it is. How you doing? Yeah, you know, Speed, that would be an exception, your father. That would be an exception. Yeah, definitely Marie Hewitt. Yes, for sure. Hey, Giselle. No, I don't think it's less. Interviews are always hard. I've been down here a week and not been able to get one. Yeah, James, there are different kinds of polyps, though. Very few of them are cancerous. And that just basically puts you in line with being predisposed. There's a link there, but most of them are harmless. Yeah, I'm going to go into this police department. I'm going to go into this police department and talk to a detective. And then I'm going to hit the road. Yeah, Greg, you're right. I appreciate that you understand the situation there and are empathetic toward it. I agree 100%. It's the same way with Kelly and her daughter. I mean, I'm not going to allow that to affect the way I treat anyone. Yeah, Becky. I mean, but if you think of Becky, that's the way Becky perceived things. You know, I've really matured a lot in the last 20 years. And like I said last night, if I wasn't older, I probably couldn't do this, or I'd be very bad at it. And for the same things that make me see through a lot of this bullshit that I don't let affect me are the same things that make me be tolerant. If Becky didn't have problems and she wasn't working the street, I'd have chewed her ass out in about the first 30 seconds. But this has changed me in a lot of ways, witnessing this and understanding the day-to-day lives of people in this predicament. It really has. It's been like dog training. I've been taught a big lesson here, which I'm grateful for. It does sometimes. If I hold it, actually, if I hold it in my right hand, it tires out my rotator cuff, if you can believe it. I'll be here for a couple more days. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that, man. I don't think they'd appreciate that, even though it's totally legal. Yeah, yep. Hey, Melissa, how you doing? No, that's the way I look at it. Yep. Yeah, I probably will see her later. Yep. Yeah, it's P.O. Box 41, and that's West Branch, 2 words, Michigan 48661. Yeah, I almost thought about donuts, but a lot of times, what you mean, to the cops or to the women? I thought about that this morning, but sometimes I don't run into them, believe it or not. I won't run into anybody for a couple days. Well, actually, it could film. It's just, I got enough enemies. I don't need to make any more. Yeah, LA, you're probably right on that. Yep. I think she got her feelings hurt. Yeah, Raven got all her gifts. Yep. Oh, really? That's Ford Road and what? Yeah, Tom, there is. How do you know that? How did you know about that? Now, I go to Flint sometimes, but it's just not the same as Detroit. I mean, I go by Flint every time I come here. Honestly, it's not that interesting to me. Hey, Wendy, how you doing? Oh, I bet so, Stella. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Flint's not the same. I mean, if there was no Detroit, I probably would be going to Flint. Yeah, I'll be down around here, southwest Detroit. Yeah. Yeah, Raven saw her last night. She's doing all right. I mean, all things considered. When I say someone's doing all right down here working the streets, they're doing all right by their standards, not ours. Yeah, Superwoman, you're probably right on Her true character was exposed. Yeah, I gave her everything. I videotaped it. Yep, I did. Yep. Yeah, Gerald and the kitten, you know. I don't know. Well, I'm going to run in here real quick. I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, that was by far my best trip. That worked. That worked perfectly. So I gave him a photo of my van, gave him a copy of my registration, let him photograph my driver's license. They have my email and my phone number, and they're gonna talk to the officers that patrol that area in the night, and I get to party on. And a guy's calling me about about filing a false police report to these people that are calling this place, telling them I'm a rapist and a murderer and all this bullshit. It's a damn lie. I'm not a rapist and a murderer. That is so ridiculous. Yeah, man, now I'll be back there at it again. And this shows you, you can look at it as good luck or bad luck, but you guys see how far I drive between this area and Michigan Avenue. It's the same precinct. If I was in a bad relationship with these guys, I would be super fucked. It's the same precinct everywhere I go. I'm down here. They would be like hassling me all the time. I could see at the beginning of like a shift, well, we got this potential rapist down here, Tom Reed, some kook that drives from up north. He's got this little dog that's not that friendly, and they drive around and they're talking to working women, and it's just weird. And when you see this guy, you make sure you pull him over, because even though he doesn't have a criminal record, he could be on the lookout, blah, 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 blah. I've seen this bullshit take off before and gain steam, and the person didn't do anything wrong. I have people ask me sometimes, can I ask you something? It's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I know something negative's coming. Why in God's name would you drive 200 miles to talk to prostitutes? I'll tell you why. You guys know why. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. And there's another whole group of people that can't understand why I would talk to prostitutes and not want something from them. This is how these kooks think. I mean, I think a lot of times it's because the way they think, and they think everybody thinks like they do, which is absolute nonsense bullshit. I want to see, actually, I had a guy last night. You guys ever, you know that T-Dot that is on there? T-Dot called me last night, and is really good friends with Ebony, and really good guy, man. I'm glad he called me, so I'm glad he's got off this shit. I had another guy from some foreign country get a hold of me with a special donation to Maddie and Gerald, and just a really good guy. I mean, there's some really good people out there, I'll tell you that, man. And I know I say this a lot, but I honest to God believe this. I mean, I know when I'm doing something really good and when I'm not. This isn't that big a deal. It's really not. I think people sometimes perceive being down here as like dangerous, but like I said, I've been intrigued with the city life my whole life. I love the photography opportunities, the videography, and I'd be down here anyway, so I don't really consider it this that I'm doing. I wouldn't say I'm doing anything good. I'm just like, I'm not doing anything bad. That's what I just told this lady. That's the way it's gonna be, because when I get this stuff in my mind, there's nothing stopping me. If I got arrested tonight and I had to go through all that bullshit, even though I didn't do something wrong, as soon as I be bailed out, man, before I even went to court, I'm gonna be down here again. It's just my personality. There's no way anybody is gonna get me to keep from doing something when there's nothing illegal or wrong about it. It's just not happening. No way. You can send me all the threatening emails you want, and threaten to kick my ass when you see me and come up north. You're not stopping me from doing anything. It's impossible. Anybody that knows me knows this is true. It's just not going to happen. And if I get pissed off about it, it just motivates me more, and it just makes me want to do it more. And the more aggressive somebody gets with me, the more I really like it, to tell you the truth. It is a pain in the ass, like dealing with YouTube, because you can't ever communicate with them. Although I think they finally saw the light the last time. And then stuff like this, like last night, I'm handing out chili and oranges and vitamins, and I'm getting talked to rudely and telling me to get out of here. What kind of shit is that? Yeah, I mean, now that's what it is. I'm not, you're never gonna curtail my behavior when I'm not doing anything wrong. I know what I'm doing, and so do a lot of the people that have the same interests I do. So I'll get a lawyer if I have to, but you're not gonna just use some cheap shit words to get me to not do something. It's not happening. Yep, no way. I won't put up with it. But like I told you last night, one little lingering thing in my mind is, so I'm out there, cop comes up to me, I'm parked legally, I'm talking to a girl. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm talking to this girl. It's like, get out of here. It's like, I'm legally parked and I'm not soliciting her for sex. I should be able to talk to her. No, you can't. Get out of here. So I say, well, I'm not getting out of here. I'm not doing anything wrong. He gets out, arrests me for soliciting, even though he knows that I wasn't soliciting for sex. He talks to the girl. The girl says, Tom's a good guy. He brings us food down here. He brings us cards. Line us up with rehab, blah, blah, blah. Well, in the meantime, they tow my van. Daisy gets taken to the dog pound. I'm 200 miles from home. And I know this is total bullshit. And I had the camera rolling the whole time, but the cop doesn't know that. So it gets uploaded to YouTube. Now, let's say it's the beginning of November. I got to either get a lawyer or represent myself, which I would represent myself on a deal like this. I got to get my vehicle out, get back home, come down to a pretrial, talk to a prosecutor. It's like, hey man, I'm just down there handing out food, and here's my videos. Well, the officer said he witnessed you on Michigan Avenue talking to a known prostitute. He tried to cut you a break. He asked you to leave, and you just said I wasn't doing anything wrong. And to us, that's solicitation. That's what they all say. Every John that we stop says. I said, well, what about these videos? And what about me coming down here for 5 years and never having a criminal record and having a degree and being a licensed PI? Does that mean anything to you people? Well, no, sir, it doesn't. It's apples and oranges. You were arrested for soliciting, and this has to do with your CV. And that's what jury trials are. And that's what a judge is for. So if you want to plead to disorderly conduct, it's like, I'm not pleading guilty to anything. I didn't do anything. I was legally parked. This cop didn't hear the conversation. I'm not soliciting. I'm not pleading to anything. Okay, then we'll schedule it for trial. So now a whole year goes by. I've been fucking with this bullshit. And you never know, you never really know what a jury's going to do. It's like, this guy is an older guy. He says he's handing out food. The prosecutor will get up there and say, it's an older guy. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He hasn't lived with his wife in 20 years. He's lonely. He got no life. He's down here riding around with the dog, trying to strike up conversations with prostitutes. And he's made friends with some of them. And there's laws against that. He was soliciting, and even though they'll never have any tape soliciting for sex, just not happen. And that's why he was arrested. We've told him to get out of there before. He's a nuisance. He's impeding traffic. It's a bad impression he leaves on businesses. This is how this shit gets done, even while you didn't do anything wrong. So after a year, go to a jury trial, and I get found not guilty because they see through this bullshit. But it's a whole year of being tied in this nonsense, not to mention getting home, and even though I didn't do anything wrong. I swear to God, I've seen this happen before. Let me tell you, there's people in life in prison got caught up in this kind of bullshit.